Maybe it's been a long day. Your thoughts are still circling like small moons waiting to rest. Let them drift now. Above the quiet horizon, light from distant stars still travels, carrying memories older than time itself. In that light, something gentle is fading. A star, once fierce and alive, now folding softly into darkness. Its glow doesn't vanish. It lingers, humming quietly through the fabric of space. Somewhere in that silence, gravity is writing its final lullaby. Tonight, you'll hear what stillness sounds like when a star exhales its last breath. Close your eyes if you'd like, and let's drift together into the calm between the stars. Beyond every city and every season, there was once a quiet beginning. A moment when the universe had just cooled enough to let silence exist. In that stillness, vast clouds of gas drifted, made of hydrogen and helium, thin as breath and colder than any night to come. They floated through the newborn dark like whispers without form, unsure of what they were meant to become. Astronomers believe that after the Big Bang, matter did not spread evenly across space. Some regions were slightly thicker, tiny ripples in the density of the early cosmos. So faint, they were almost mistakes in the fabric of time. Yet within those uneven ripples, gravity found something to hold on to. Each cloud moved like fog in slow motion. Nothing exploded, nothing rushed. The atoms simply drifted and brushed against one another, guided by the faint pull of their shared existence. Where one region grew a little denser, it gathered more around itself, the way water curls inward when a pebble meets its surface. Over unimaginable ages, these ripples deepened, and the first skeleton of structure appeared. The early universe was like a shoreline before dawn, flat, still, pale with waiting. Beneath that calm surface, invisible currents were already gathering. Hydrogen and helium, the lightest of all elements, began to draw closer, as if they were remembering where they belonged. There was no command, no sound, only gravity's patient invitation. Far across the emptiness, a faint glow lingered, the leftover warmth of creation, the cosmic microwave background still humming softly today. Against that dim backdrop, the clouds appeared as drifting shadows, islands of mist in an endless ocean. There were no edges, only slow deepening, as if the air of space was learning how to have weight. Gravity did not push. It simply waited. Each gentle thickening of the cloud strengthened its pull, like a heartbeat forming under the skin of the universe. The difference between nothing and something appeared only through repetition. Quiet persistence turning stillness into substance. From far away, it would have seemed motionless, a dark field breathing in and out at a pace beyond comprehension. The outer layers were calm, the inner ones turning inward almost imperceptibly. There were no stars, no heat, no light, only the suggestion that something wanted to exist. It was the first inhale of the universe, thin, cold, and unaware of its own future. From that breath, everything that would ever shine began to prepare itself. The beginning was not a flash or a roar. It was a realization that creation itself is born from quiet. And somewhere within that quiet, the universe was learning how to breathe. In the soft darkness that followed the universe's first breath, something quiet began to gather. It moved without sound or shape, an invisible patience working beneath the drifting clouds of hydrogen and helium. Gravity, the unseen artist, was not pulling, not forcing. It was persuading. It was the gentle suggestion that all things, scattered and cold, might be better together. Astronomers describe gravity as the reason dust and gas begin to form clouds. But in truth, it feels more like comfort than command. The atoms did not rush toward one another. They simply drifted a little closer each time they passed, learning the rhythm of belonging. In every direction, the faintest attraction curved through space, the first invisible threads of connection weaving across the emptiness. These threads did not shimmer or glow, but they shaped everything that would one day burn and breathe. Gravity is not a rope that pulls. It is the curve that space makes around what exists. Einstein once described it not as a force, but as a folding, a soft distortion of space-time caused by mass. Wherever matter rested, space bent inward, and nearby matter, following the simplest path, found itself falling toward that bend. To fall, then, was not to be dragged, but to follow the landscape that reality itself had drawn. In that sense, gravity does not demand, it invites. Over time, the scattered gases of the early universe began to respond to that invitation. The densest regions curved the space around them a little more deeply, creating hollows in the invisible fabric of the cosmos. Within those hollows, the lightest atoms began to sink together. The process was patient beyond imagination, a slow choreography lasting millions of years. Hydrogen touched helium, then drifted apart, then returned again, each meeting bringing them slightly closer, slightly warmer. As the clouds thickened, their centers grew darker, heavy enough to pull light inward. The outer layers still floated free, illuminated by the dim background of the cosmos, while the heart of each forming cloud turned into a hidden cradle of heat. Gravity was painting without color, sculpting without touch, shaping the raw air of the universe into the promise of a future sky. If you could have watched from afar, you would not have seen motion or glow, only a subtle deepening of shadow. Yet, in that darkness, every atom was listening, waiting for its cue in a silent performance. The heavier the cloud became, the more gently it folded space around itself, the more surely it whispered to what floated near. Stay. Gravity's work was invisible, but its message was constant. It did not command, it reassured. It did not shout, it hummed, low and endless, like the echo of breath between stars. From those hums, from those invisible curves, would rise everything we call structure, light, and form. And just as gravity held the first clouds together, it continues to hold you, quietly, faithfully, without being seen. There are connections you cannot measure, yet they never let go. Some forces do not need to be visible to be real. Some bonds do not need to be spoken to be felt. Deep within the densest of those ancient clouds, gravity's patience reached a turning point. As matter drifted closer, the invisible folds of space drew tighter, pressing atoms against one another until their quiet dance became a slow, steady heartbeat. Temperature rose where density deepened, not in sudden bursts, but through constant, gentle insistence, pressure building like breath held too long. In the heart of the cloud, the smallest particles began to touch in ways they never had before. Hydrogen, the simplest element, met itself under this growing heat. Two protons collided, then merged, forming something new. Deuterium, a heavier echo of hydrogen. The reaction did not roar or blaze. It flickered softly, hidden within a cocoon of gas and dust. More collisions followed, forming helium from the union of these lightest atoms. The first successful conversation between matter and energy. Physicists call it the proton-proton chain, the process by which hydrogen transforms into helium, releasing light and warmth into the void. But to the universe, it must have felt like something more personal. A first breath taken after an eternity of silence. Each fusion released energy that could no longer hide. Deep inside the thickening cloud, the temperature soared into millions of degrees, yet the outer layers still drifted in the cold calm of space. The heat trapped within began to push outward, gently resisting gravity's endless pull. For the first time, there was balance, a quiet truce between pressure and attraction, collapse and expansion. The equilibrium shimmered, fragile and perfect. And then, in that balance came light, not a flash, not a shout, a whisper. The first photon, born from the heart of fusion, slipped outward and began its long journey through the veil of dust. It scattered, slowed, and stretched. Its brilliance softened into warmth. That faint glow was the beginning of starlight, a single spark surrounded by the endless chill of nothingness. To witness it, had eyes existed then, would not have been to see a fire, but to feel a change in rhythm, a subtle hum passing through the fabric of space, like the sigh of air when dawn first touches water. The cloud no longer drifted aimlessly. It pulsed. It breathed. Gravity had shaped the stage, but fusion had lit the lamp. The universe, once only movement and silence, now had a source of heat, of light, of memory. From that small fire, the laws of existence found their pattern. Fusion continued, a steady sequence of birth and renewal, turning matter into energy, and energy into the soft pulse that would one day warm worlds. In time, billions of such sparks would appear, scattered through the cosmic night. Each one a reminder that even darkness carries the memory of light waiting to return. The first light did not announce itself. It whispered through the void, a single note of warmth in an otherwise frozen song. Creation did not arrive with thunder. It began with stillness, with breath, with one small glow pushing gently against the dark. Even creation begins with a quiet inhale. Once the first spark took hold, the cloud was no longer a drifting memory. It had become a star, a quiet sphere of heat and pressure breathing through the rhythm of invisible forces. Inside, the heart of fusion continued to burn, transforming hydrogen into helium, turning matter into light. Yet for every pulse that pushed outward, another force answered from within. Gravity still held its hand upon the star's shoulder, reminding it to stay together. Two powers shaped its existence. One pushed, one pulled. Nuclear fusion pressed outward with the radiance of creation, sending waves of energy through layers of plasma. Gravity pressed inward, folding those same layers back toward the core. Between them lay balance, delicate, exact, and essential. The star could only live so long as neither side won. Astronomers call this equilibrium the main sequence, a calm plateau in the life of a star. It is not eternal, but it lasts long enough to seem timeless. In this stage, the energy produced in the core perfectly matches the weight pressing down from above. Every photon born from fusion rises through the star's layers, scattering, slowing, cooling, until it escapes into the open dark. Each one is a tiny heartbeat, carrying the rhythm of that equilibrium across space. The star lives by breathing in and out, though its breath takes millions of years. It expands slightly as fusion flares, then contracts gently as gravity steadies it again. This slow oscillation keeps its shape, its temperature, its glow. If it were alive, and in a sense it is, this would be its pulse, the soundless thrum that connects it to the rest of the cosmos. A star lives by the heartbeat of the universe. From afar, it looks eternal, light steady, edges soft, warmth flowing like a tide that never ebbs. But inside, every moment is a negotiation. Pressure meets gravity, expansion meets restraint, and the result is harmony, not silence, but a hum that fills the void with stability. It is the same balance that holds galaxies together, the same symmetry that keeps planets circling, oceans rising and falling, lungs drawing air and releasing it. In the star's luminous center, the dance continues endlessly. Fusion insists on release, gravity insists on return. Neither dominates, and that tension becomes beauty. The light that reaches Earth, the warmth that touches your skin, is the proof of that balance, a record of countless moments when opposites agreed. Life itself follows the same law. Every breath you take is the same conversation between expansion and compression, giving and keeping, chaos and order. To live, whether as a human or a star, is to exist within the fragile space between forces that could undo you if they ceased to care. In that sense, existence is not a fight, but a compromise written in light. The universe, in all its quiet symmetry, keeps reminding us stability is born from opposites learning to coexist. A star survives not by strength, but by listening to its own gravity. And so do we. Inside the glowing heart of every star, light is born in the smallest of gestures. A collision between particles, a fusion of hydrogen into helium, a moment when matter gives up a fraction of itself to become something that can travel forever. These newborn photons begin deep within the star's core, where the pressure is immense and time itself moves like syrup. It will take them thousands of years to escape, bouncing from atom to atom in a slow migration toward freedom. Each step they take reshapes the darkness around them, carving a path of brightness through density. When they finally reach the surface, the photons leap outward, a quiet release, a sigh after eons of confinement. They scatter in every direction, carrying the warmth and memory of the place they came from. Some will travel a few seconds before meeting dust or water. Some will wander across galaxies, slipping between planets and nebulae. But no matter how far they go, each carries a trace of its origin, a silent remembrance of the star that first taught it to shine. Light leaves its home, but it never forgets where it began. Out in space, these photons move at the fastest pace the universe allows. Not hurried, but steady, like a note sustained in a song without end. They cross distances so vast that a single beam might outlive the very star that created it. What we see as starlight tonight may have started its journey before humanity existed, before Earth had oceans, before the word light had meaning. Every twinkle above us is a message from the past, arriving only now, its voice softened by distance and time. To the human eye, light feels instant, but to the cosmos, it is patient. Each photon is both traveler and storyteller, carrying with it the record of everything it has touched. When it grazes an atmosphere, it changes color. When it meets a mirror, it turns back for a moment, as if reconsidering its path. And when it reaches a human eye, it completes a circle that began billions of years ago. A beam born in silence, now transformed into vision, into awareness. Light is more than energy. It is memory written across space. It drifts like a blessing, soft and impartial, touching everything without asking for return. In its motion, there is rhythm, the slow pulse of waves stretching through time. That rhythm is the universe's quiet music, the background hum that threads galaxies together. If you could hear it, it would not sound like a song, but like the steady breath of something infinite remembering itself. Time, too, moves by that rhythm. Each second is a measure of light's journey, each sunrise a chord struck on the vast instrument of the cosmos. To watch the night sky is to listen to the oldest melody in existence, composed not of notes, but of photons dancing through distance. Light continues its journey endlessly, never tired, never late, always returning in some form. Reflected, refracted, reborn. It is the song of beginnings, still playing long after its singers fade. Time itself is the melody that light never stops performing, and every spark in the sky is a note held perfectly in tune. Once a star finds its balance, it does not remain alone for long. Across the wide ocean of space, gravity begins to weave connections, drawing other stars, dust, and planets into a shared rhythm. Some stars form in pairs, born from the same cloud, their destinies intertwined from the start. They circle one another endlessly, two bright hearts caught in a silent waltz. Astronomers call them binary systems, but to the universe, they are simply companions. Partners in motion, spinning through the quiet airlessness of eternity. Around such stars, smaller bodies gather. Planets, moons, asteroids, each responding to gravity's subtle choreography. Every orbit is both surrender and freedom, a dance between falling and flying. A planet circles its star not because it is held by chains, but because it is forever missing it. Drawn close, yet never touching, always moving fast enough to escape, yet slow enough to stay. In that tension lies grace, the kind of harmony only nature could compose. From afar, these motions seem effortless. The orbits trace invisible loops, arcs that repeat with patience beyond imagination. But beneath that elegance lies constant conversation, gravity whispering, inertia replying, balance maintained through give and take. The same laws that bind galaxies together are at work here, turning the emptiness between objects into a stage for motion. There are no collisions, no chaos, only the slow spinning of partners who have learned to trust each other's pull. If you could stand still in space and watch two stars orbit one another, you would see something close to poetry. One star drifts slightly ahead, then falls behind, each responding to the other's invisible gravity. Their light flickers together, sometimes combining into brilliance, sometimes fading as one hides the other from view. It is a performance measured in millennia, yet it feels intimate. A slow embrace written into the laws of existence. These dancers move to a rhythm that needs no sound. The music is in their motion. Even the lonely wanderers, the planets that seem adrift, are never truly alone. Their paths are bound to the stars they orbit, to the moons that follow them, to the galaxies that cradle them all. Distance is not absence. It is the shape of connection stretched thin across space. The universe, for all its vastness, is a single web of motion, every particle aware of the others through the pull of gravity's quiet hand. Our own planet takes part in that same dance. Earth turns faithfully around the sun, leaning gently toward it, then away, its oceans and seasons keeping time. The moon circles Earth, tugging at its tides, reminding it that companionship need not be perfect symmetry, only shared rhythm. To shine is to balance between giving and falling. Stars give their light, but they fall toward one another in gravity's embrace. Planets reflect that light and return it in orbits both endless and assured. This is the great truth written into the sky, that nothing drifts alone, not truly. Every movement is an answer to another. Every glow, no matter how faint, is a conversation across the dark. Every star, no matter how radiant, carries within it a quiet clock. It does not tick or chime, but it moves all the same, through fusion, through warmth, through time. In its youth, hydrogen flows freely in the core, sustaining the steady rhythm between gravity and pressure. But as eons pass, that reservoir begins to thin. The reactions that once came easily grow slower, softer, more deliberate. The star does not fail. It simply changes tempo. Inside, the core begins to contract under its own immense weight. With less hydrogen to fuse, gravity takes the lead again, folding the center tighter. As the heart collapses inward, it grows hotter, denser, more restless. The outer layers, now free from balance, respond by swelling outward, a soft exhale after ages of restraint. What was once compact becomes immense, its edges glowing red and cool while its center burns white and fierce. The star enters a new chapter, not death, but transformation. Astronomers call it expansion into the red giant phase. But to the eye of imagination, it is a candle nearing the end of its wax. The flame still burns, but slower now, stretching its light across the room as if reluctant to go dark. Each flicker is an echo of what once was, a memory of heat replayed with tenderness. The star is no longer the youthful pulse it once was. It is the steady glow of endurance, a warmth that lingers. This aging is not sudden. It happens across millions of years, so slow that even galaxies might forget the beginning of the story. The surface cools while the core tightens, layers of helium and carbon forming deep inside like rings in a tree trunk. Each new layer marks another heartbeat in the star's long life, a record of every breath it ever took. Its light changes too, turning softer, redder, as though the universe itself had dimmed the lamps for evening. Seen from afar, it would appear majestic, a swollen sphere suspended in quiet resignation, casting light that feels both strong and tired. Around it, planets drift in wider orbits, feeling the growing warmth that is both gift and warning. The star's expansion might engulf some, push others away. Yet even in this, there is no violence, only the slow rearrangement of relationships. The universe doesn't break, it reshapes. In its final steady moments, the star is not dying, but remembering. The atoms it fused, the photons it released, the gravity it resisted, all remain, still in motion, still connected. What began as a whisper of hydrogen has become a cathedral of fire. Time has not taken it. Time has only changed its shape. The universe teaches this lesson gently. Time doesn't destroy, it transforms. It doesn't erase, it rewrites. The aging of a star is the quiet acceptance that no flame burns forever, yet every flame leaves behind its light. Like a candle burning slow in a vast and silent room, the star glows not in defiance, but in grace, holding on just long enough to show how beautiful letting go can be. If the universe could feel, it would speak through the shades of light. Every star carries its own color, a quiet signature written by temperature and time. Blue for youth and intensity, yellow for balance and warmth, red for age and at rest. Together, they paint the sky with a palette that shifts as slowly as memory itself. To look at the night is to read the diary of creation, one written not in words, but in wavelengths. At its hottest, a star burns blue-white, the color of fierce beginnings. These are the young ones, massive and fast, living with a brightness that borders on impatience. Their light cuts sharp and clean across the dark, radiating energy in all directions. But their brilliance comes at a cost. They burn through their fuel quickly, like candles with too much oxygen. They shine hardest and therefore shortest. A blue star is not eternal. It is a heartbeat caught in motion. Stars, like our sun, burn in a gentler hue. Their light leans golden, steady, and forgiving. This color is a middle ground, a tone of maturity, warm, sustaining, constant. It is the color of balance, where fusion and gravity find peace. The sunlight that reaches Earth is a reminder of that harmony. Not too hot, not too cold, but perfectly measured, the shade of endurance. To exist in yellow is to know patience. And then there are the red stars, cooler, slower, wiser. They expand as they age, stretching their light into deeper tones, turning the sky into a place of warmth rather than fire. Red giants pulse with an unhurried rhythm, their light soft as the last embers of a long night. They have seen the rise and fall of ages, yet they do not lament their fading. Instead, they glow like memory itself, holding the calm that only time can teach. Astronomers can tell a star's temperature by its color, yet color also tells a deeper truth. Blue burns with hunger, yellow hums with stability, red glows with reflection. Each shade is a stage in a story, not of decline, but of becoming. Light doesn't mourn the change in its tone, it simply adjusts, finding new ways to speak. Across the universe, these colors blend into a silent symphony. Galaxies bloom with them, great clouds of light swirling in hues from ice to flame. If the cosmos has emotion, this is how it shows it, through color that changes as it learns, through brightness that softens with wisdom. Every shade is a feeling turned visible, a mood painted across the endless dark. We are made of that same light. The atoms in our bodies were once part of stars that burned blue, glowed yellow, or dimmed to red. Their colors live on in us. In the warmth of skin, the reflection in eyes, the flicker of thought. Every human carries the echo of a different temperature, a reminder that change is not loss, but expression. Aging does not steal color, it deepens it. Each moment, each heartbeat shifts our shades slightly, the way a star's light cools as it grows old. To live like a star is to radiate through time, to burn, to soften, to fade, and to continue shining. Every color is a stage of existence, and every hue is proof that we were here. There comes a moment in every star's life when its heart begins to quiver. It is not visible from the outside. The surface still glows, steady and calm. But deep within, something begins to shift. The fusion that once moved like breath now falters. The core, once perfectly balanced between heat and gravity, starts to tremble under its own weight. The star has been burning for millions, perhaps billions of years, yet even eternity can tire. As hydrogen runs low, the delicate harmony inside begins to change. Gravity, patient as ever, pushes inward while the core contracts, becoming denser and hotter. Around it, new shells of fusion ignite, helium burning, carbon forming, layers upon layers of energy flaring and fading. the reactions no longer follow a steady rhythm. They pulse and waver, like an old heartbeat losing its consistency. The light that reaches across space still shines beautifully, but its source is beginning to shake. If you could stand close enough to hear it, though no sound travels through space, you might sense the vibration in silence, the faint hum of strain within the star's vast body. Each tremor is a reminder that even the grandest forces can grow unsteady, that the same energy that once created balance can also signal change. The star is not dying yet, but it is remembering what it means to be finite. Astronomers describe this stage as instability, a word that sounds harsh, but it is really just another form of transition. The core is learning to let go, to surrender its constant creation. In the deep pressure where atoms are crushed into new elements, the star begins to write its final chapters. Iron starts to appear, heavy and unyielding, a quiet warning that the process cannot go on forever. Fusion, the very act that gave it life, is reaching its natural limit. Outside, the star expands again, its surface swelling with the heat of the turmoil within. It flickers, its brightness wavering like a candle caught in a breath of air. Yet even in this trembling, there is grace. The star continues to give light, to warm its corner of the universe, to exist with dignity amid the slow unraveling. A giant of fire, still trying to keep its composure. In that image lies something deeply human. Strength is not the absence of weakness, it is the quiet endurance that continues through it. Even the sun, steadfast and unwavering in our sky, will one day feel this same trembling, not as failure, but as fulfillment. Every beginning carries the seed of its own end, and every end returns something to the beginning. The trembling of the core is the universe's way of exhaling. It is not sorrow, but a gentle reminder that all cycles must complete. The light may falter, but its essence remains, turning into new elements, new worlds, new chances for warmth. Even the greatest things tremble before their ending. Even fire grows old. And yet, within that aging flame, the universe keeps breathing, calm, inevitable, and endlessly kind. When the trembling grows too deep to ignore, the star exhales. What once held tight begins to release. The outer layers, once bound by gravity's steady hand, start to drift away. The surface swells, folds, and ripples outward until the star becomes immense, hundreds of times larger than before. It glows not with youthful fire, but with the deep red warmth of farewell. Its light softens, stretching farther, touching the edges of nearby worlds like the lingering warmth of a sunset that refuses to fade. This is the red giant, a heart swollen by time, heavy with memory. Its expansion is not anger or collapse. It is the quiet generosity of something that has given too much for too long. The hydrogen that once fueled it is almost gone, replaced by helium and heavier elements burning in desperate bursts. The balance that once held fusion and gravity in harmony has tipped. The star breathes out, layer by layer, as if releasing the weight of its own brilliance. Astronomers describe this stage as the shedding of the outer shell, a process that fills space with drifting clouds of gas and dust. Those clouds shimmer faintly in the red light, expanding outward like silk unraveling in slow motion. Every breath the star takes leaves behind another veil of itself, spreading the raw material for future worlds into the interstellar dark. What looks like decay is really a gift, a final act of creation. If you could see it up close, the red giant would appear almost alive, its surface rolling with waves of glowing plasma, each surge a pulse from the trembling core within. The light that reaches us from such a star is older than memory, stretched thin by time, yet it carries warmth. The kind of warmth that feels like understanding. A red giant is a heart that has loved too much, burning not for itself, but for everything it has touched. Around it, planets drift further away, pushed by the star's growing wind. Some may be swallowed by its expanding atmosphere, disappearing quietly beneath waves of light. Others will survive, circling the fading core that remains, orbiting not out of fear, but remembrance. Even in its final moments, the star holds its companions gently, letting them go with grace. In human terms, this would be the long sigh before sleep, not an end, but a surrender. The universe doesn't rush such moments. It allows them to unfold at the pace of understanding, at the rhythm of light itself. The red giant glows as though it knows this is its last great act, that beauty can exist even in the unraveling. And so it expands until its breath becomes space itself, until its warmth is scattered into the fabric of tomorrow. It will fade, but not disappear. Its dust will drift into nebulae, its atoms will find new homes, and its story will echo through every star yet to come. Sometimes expansion is not destruction, but release. Sometimes the universe says goodbye, not with silence, but with light that grows softer, wider, and infinitely kind. When the star has given all it can, when every layer has burned and folded into something heavier, its heart reaches a threshold. Deep within, the core tightens beyond measure. Gravity pulls inward with relentless patience, while pressure, now exhausted, can no longer resist. For a moment, all forces align, an impossible stillness before release. Then light itself seems to pause, and in that pause, the universe prepares to remember. The end arrives, not as violence, but as liberation. The star's core collapses inward, and its outer layers rush outward, no longer bound by the weight they once obeyed. The result is a bloom of energy so vast that it outshines entire galaxies, light spilling through space like an ocean turned inside out. Astronomers call it a supernova, but words feel too small for what truly happens. It is not an explosion. It is light breaking open, a final blessing cast across the dark. For a few short weeks, that single fading star outshines billions of others. The photons it releases race outward in all directions, carrying fragments of everything the star once was. Carbon, oxygen, iron, the building blocks of life, are scattered into the cosmic sea. In that radiant farewell, the star gives away its body, its warmth, its memory. It becomes, in every sense, a source rather than a center. The energy that once defined it now belongs to everything else. Seen from a distance, a supernova is breathtaking. A flower of fire unfurling in slow motion, petals of light expanding through silence. There is no sound, only color. Waves of blue, gold, and crimson woven through the remnants of its life. Each flicker is a note in the symphony of endings, a luminous echo of the heartbeat that once sustained it. The dying star's brilliance is not tragedy, it is generosity. Every atom released will travel for billions of years, joining dust clouds, feeding new stars, and finding its way into the hearts of future worlds. Even you, The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, carry within you the ash of such a farewell. We are all recipients of that last act of giving. When the light from a supernova reaches a distant planet, it may appear as a single bright point in the sky, here for a night, gone by morning. Yet its meaning lingers. It reminds us that endings, however bright or brief, are not the opposite of creation. They are its continuation. Energy passing from one form to another, light remembering how to move forward. The universe does not mourn such moments. It observes, it transforms, it learns to glow in new ways. The supernova is both death and renewal, an act of sharing so complete that nothing is lost. The star's final breath becomes the beginning of countless others. Light doesn't die when it disperses. It multiplies. The last brightness of a star is a gift written in radiance, a reminder that beauty can outlive form. A farewell in light, gentle, immense, and everlasting. When the light of a supernova fades, the universe exhales again. The brilliant petals of energy drift outward, growing dimmer, colder, further apart, until they blend back into the silence that once held them. But at the center of that fading radiance, something remains. The star's final truth, condensed into a form that defies the imagination. What endures after all the burning is not ash, not ruin, but gravity made solid. In some stars, the core settles into a sphere no larger than a city, yet heavier than entire mountains. This is a neutron star, the collapsed heart of a once luminous sun. Its matter is crushed so tightly that atoms lose their identity, their protons and electrons merging into neutrons packed side by side. A teaspoon of such material would outweigh a mountain. And yet, for all its density, a neutron star still hums with the faint rhythm of its past life. It spins rapidly, releasing beams of light that sweep across space like the slow turning of a cosmic lighthouse. Even after death, it still finds a way to shine. For stars larger still, gravity takes one step further. The collapse continues, folding space so deeply that not even light can escape. A boundary forms, the event horizon, beyond which every path curves inward forever. This is the black hole, the quietest and most mysterious of all cosmic remnants. It does not destroy, it contains. It is not emptiness, but memory so dense that it bends reality itself. The space around it ripples, time slows near its edge, and anything that drifts too close becomes part of its story. Astronomers describe black holes with equations, yet the language of science only hints at their poetry. They are the ultimate stillness, the pause between breaths on a universal scale. To some, they are endings. To others, they are beginnings. Their gravity may be invisible, but their influence shapes galaxies, anchoring entire systems of light and dust. The universe uses them not to erase, but to remember. If you could look into the heart of a black hole, though nothing can, you would not see destruction. You would see history held intact, compressed beyond comprehension. Everything the star ever was, every photon it ever released, is still there, hidden but preserved in the curve of space-time. It is the universe keeping its memories safe, locked behind silence. There is a kind of grace in this final transformation. Fire gives way to gravity and brightness to depth. What once reached outward now draws inward, teaching that even collapse has purpose. The cycle continues. Dust becomes star, star becomes light, light becomes shadow, and shadow becomes the seed of new creation. What remains after everything fades is not emptiness, but the essence of connection. the invisible pull that holds the cosmos together. The star's final act is not to disappear, but to become the very structure that allows others to exist. Endings are the universe's way of remembering itself, and as the last light settles into darkness, the cosmos grows quiet again. Not lost, not gone, but waiting. At the heart of certain fallen stars lies a silence so deep that even light cannot return from it. Gravity, once the patient sculptor of the cosmos, becomes absolute. An artist with no brush but curvature, no color but darkness. The result is a hollow in space-time, a wound that never bleeds, a place where direction itself loses meaning. It is not a hole in the sense we know, but a fold, a bending so intense that reality curves inward and never quite straightens again. Astronomers call it a black hole. Poets might call it the pause between existence and memory. Imagine space as a vast fabric stretched across nothingness. Every planet, every star, every atom makes a small indentation in that fabric, a ripple felt by the rest of creation. But when a massive star collapses beyond its own resistance, that ripple becomes a well, steep, endless, perfect. The walls of space-time dip so deeply that light, which has always been the fastest traveler in the universe, can no longer climb free. It curves inward, spiraling toward an invisible center. Once it crosses that unseen threshold, the event horizon, it is gone from our view, though not from existence. Light doesn't die. It simply becomes part of the silence. This collapse is not destruction, but transformation. Inside, matter is compressed to a single point of infinite density, the singularity, where all known laws of physics cease to describe what happens. To human understanding, it is as if reality itself forgets how to behave. Yet the universe does not fear this forgetting. Around every black hole, stars continue to orbit, galaxies continue to spin, and the rhythm of creation goes on. The void at the center does not consume all things. It holds them in balance, unseen, yet essential. If one could watch from a safe distance, the edges of a black hole would shimmer faintly with borrowed light. Gas and dust spiraling inward heat to millions of degrees, releasing X-rays that flicker like candlelight before fading. To our eyes, it might look like a dark eye rimmed in fire. Stillness surrounded by motion, gravity framed by grace. That contrast, the union of light and loss, is the black hole's quiet beauty. Scientists once feared such objects. They seemed to defy reason, to mock the very concept of escape. But time softened that fear. Now we know black holes help galaxies form and endure. They give shape to chaos, anchoring the stars like silent conductors of gravity's endless symphony. The universe, in its wisdom, uses darkness not to erase light, but to give it contrast. And so, perhaps, we learn from it. Darkness is not the absence of meaning. It is the backdrop that allows light to show its truth. What we call the unknown is often just a deeper layer of understanding waiting to be revealed. We do not fear the dark itself, only the thought of not finding ourselves within it. A black hole is the universe looking inward, holding its breath, remembering what it means to exist without form. And as we drift through that thought, we realize the night sky is full of such pauses, reminders that even what disappears still belongs. As one drifts closer to the boundary of a black hole, the familiar rhythm of time begins to change. What once moved steadily, the ticking of a clock, the beating of a heart, the orbit of a planet begins to slow. To an outside observer, every motion seems to stretch, every second lengthens, and what should take moments now appears eternal. The universe at this edge forgets how to hurry. This region is called the event horizon, the line between visibility and silence. Here, gravity's hand becomes absolute. It bends not just space, but time itself. The closer an object moves toward that invisible border, the slower time passes for it. To the object itself, nothing feels strange. Everything seems normal, peaceful even. But to someone watching from afar, the traveler's fall appears to freeze. Suspended forever at the brink, a moment stretched thin as silk and never breaking. Physicists describe this with equations, but words can tell it differently. Time, near a black hole, behaves like a river meeting a waterfall. To those caught in the current, it flows as always. To those watching from above, the water seems to hover, glimmering endlessly before the drop. The same moment plays again and again, light waves stretched longer, redder, dimmer, until they fade from sight. In that place, a second can last longer than the lifetime of a galaxy. This is the edge of time, a place where eternity isn't infinite distance, but infinite delay. It is where the universe's pulse slows to a whisper, where each heartbeat is an echo that never finishes returning. The fabric of space-time is drawn tight here, so tight that even causality, the simple rule that one thing follows another, begins to blur. The before and after merge into a single stillness. Imagine watching a star approach that edge. Its light grows fainter, its color deepens, until it seems to hang motionless on a threshold of forever. You might think it has stopped existing, but it hasn't. It is simply caught in time's slow embrace, continuing its fall in silence. Even its final signals, stretched thin by gravity, still travel outward, whispering into the cosmos long after the star itself is gone. Einstein's theory of relativity predicted this long before we could imagine seeing it. The idea that time could bend, stretch, and slow is not fiction, but the quiet truth of how gravity shapes the universe. The deeper the curve, the slower the clock. And at the edge of a black hole, that curve becomes infinite. From our point of view, nothing ever truly crosses the horizon. It just fades, slower, softer, until it becomes one with the dark. To think of this is to feel both small and comforted. Perhaps eternity is not some unreachable state, but the simple feeling of time coming to rest. Maybe forever isn't endless. Maybe it's just stillness. A single breath held long enough to remind the universe of its own calm. The edge of time is not a wall. It is a moment stretched beyond measure, where movement becomes memory and light becomes thought. And in that quiet suspension, the universe itself seems to breathe, slowly, endlessly, beautifully. For a long time, people believed that nothing could ever escape a black hole, that its gravity was a perfect silence, swallowing everything, even light, forever. But the universe, it seems, never allows silence to be perfect. In 1974, the physicist Stephen Hawking proposed something remarkable. Black holes, despite their darkness, are not entirely mute. They whisper. They release faint radiation born not from within, but from the delicate balance of quantum chance at their edge. It is called Hawking radiation, a slow exhalation of energy, almost imperceptible, yet endlessly patient. It happens because space itself is never truly empty. even in the void, particles flicker into being, pairs of opposites appearing and vanishing faster than a blink. Near the event horizon, one of those particles may fall inward, while the other escapes, carrying with it a tiny fragment of the black hole's energy. Over unimaginable time, this quiet leakage continues, and the black hole, once the most powerful anchor of gravity, begins to lose mass. The unbreakable begins to fade. To human eyes, this process is invisible, too faint to ever be seen directly. Yet it reminds us of something profound. Even the deepest silence hums with life. What we call nothing is never truly nothing. The vacuum of space trembles with the smallest vibrations, the lowest notes of existence. It is as though the universe itself cannot stop singing, softly, endlessly, beneath every layer of darkness. If you could listen closely enough, perhaps you'd hear it. A cosmic whisper spreading through time, older than galaxies, patient as light. Not a sound in air, but a resonance of being. The way gravity, space, and quantum fields hum against one another. It is the faintest music of creation, a vibration that says, I am still here. One day, long after stars have burned out and galaxies have thinned into shadow, even black holes will fade completely, dissolving into the radiation they emit. No collapse, no explosion, just quiet disappearance. A soft glow fading into background like the last ember of a cosmic fire. When that happens, all that remains will be space itself, filled with the memory of what once was. This is not tragedy. It is the completion of a cycle. Matter returns to energy, energy to silence, silence to potential. The black hole does not die in pain. It dissolves in grace, leaving behind a universe slightly lighter, slightly quieter, yet still humming with everything it has ever been. In that hum, in that near emptiness, all of creation continues. Perhaps the universe is teaching us that silence is never the end of sound, and endings are never voids. Even when all else fades, memory remains, encoded in the faintest vibration, the smallest shimmer of energy. Even in silence, the universe hums with memory, and if you close your eyes, you can almost feel it, that low, endless pulse beneath everything, the echo of nothing that holds all things together. After the final breath of a star, the darkness doesn't stay empty for long. What was once a single burning sun now drifts apart, clouds of matter expanding quietly through the cold. These fragments, glowing faintly in ultraviolet light, spread outward for thousands of years, mingling with the dust between the stars. It is easy to mistake them for remains, but in truth, they are beginnings. Every speck of that drifting debris carries within it the elements of everything that will ever live again. From the chaos of the supernova, the universe inherits its richness. Hydrogen and helium, the lightest gases, came first. But it is in the death of stars that heavier elements are born. Carbon, oxygen, silicon, iron, gold, each forged in a furnace so hot it outshines galaxies for a heartbeat. These are the ashes that make the soil of worlds, the breath of future atmospheres, the skeletons of mountains. What we call destruction is simply nature redistributing its ingredients, scattering possibility across the void. Astronomers have traced this cycle with quiet awe. They've seen nebulae form from stellar remains, veils of color woven through black space, glowing with ultraviolet fire. The Crab Nebula, for instance, is the echo of a star that ended its life 1,000 years ago. To telescopes, It looks like a ghost caught mid-dance, filaments of gas tangled like silk threads. Within that beauty, new atoms collide and bond, drifting together until gravity calls them home once more. Somewhere, in one of those clouds, a fragment of iron begins its journey toward a new world. It will fall into the pool of a forming star, settle in the dust of an infant planet, and eventually become part of a stone, a tree, or a beating heart. The chain is unbroken. The universe is not a story of loss, but of recycling, of transformation so vast that even endings are just pauses. If you were to hold a handful of soil and truly think about what it is, you would realize that it has been part of a star. The calcium in your bones, the oxygen you breathe, the gold on a ring, all were once scattered across space as fragments of a dying sun. The universe does not waste a single atom. It reuses everything endlessly, with patience beyond comprehension. There is something tender in that logic. The way destruction feeds creation, the way death becomes nourishment for what comes next. It suggests that the cosmos itself believes in continuity. The death of a star is not the extinguishing of light, but the spreading of it, divided among 1,000 newborn fires. Somewhere billions of miles away, those particles are still moving, still finding each other. The debris of creation shimmering faintly, preparing to assemble new worlds. What once burned alone will return as part of 1,000,000 different stories. The universe does not mourn its stars. It repurposes their brilliance. The death of a star is the birth of countless worlds. Every night sky we look at is proof that even in endings, the cosmos is always beginning again. Out in the dark reaches of space, the dust of long dead stars begins to gather again. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, gravity starts to weave its quiet spell. Tiny grains of carbon and ice drift toward one another, brushing together like the first notes of a forgotten melody. Over millions of years, those faint gatherings become clouds, vast and ghostly, stretching for light years across the galactic sea. These are nebulae, the nurseries of creation, where the universe rewrites its story using its own ashes as ink. From a distance, they shimmer with impossible colors: sapphire and violet, gold and rose, threads of light braided through the darkness. Each hue tells a story of its elements: hydrogen glowing red, oxygen whispering blue, sulfur breathing faintly green. Within those luminous veils, particles collide and merge, drawn inward by the pull of their shared gravity. As the cloud thickens, heat begins to build at its center, the first flicker of a new star stirring within. Astronomers have watched this process unfold, not in hours or days, but in eons. They see the same materials, the remnants of older stars, come together again and again, each time taking on new form. It is a cycle both patient and eternal. Nothing is lost, only rearranged. A single atom might spend 1,000,000,000 years floating between stars before finding a new home in the heart of another. The universe does not rush its artistry. It edits, revises, and begins anew. Inside a forming nebula, chaos and harmony coexist. Swirls of gas dance like smoke, folding into spirals that conceal hidden centers of light. Within those hidden cores, pressure mounts until hydrogen ignites once more. The birth cry of a star, silent but radiant. Around it, the remaining dust begins to gather into rings, forming planets, moons, and the seeds of everything that will one day look up at the sky in wonder. What once was scattered now shines again, transformed but familiar. If you could stand within one of these cosmic nurseries, you would feel the airless calm of creation at work. Every shimmer would tell a story of rebirth. Every beam of light, a memory of something that burned long ago. The universe is not rebuilding from scratch. It is recycling its own memories, folding the past into the future. The dust that once carried the warmth of an ancient star now carries the promise of a new dawn. There is comfort in knowing that nothing truly disappears. Change is not erasure, it is continuity in disguise. Just as fallen leaves feed new roots, so too do collapsed stars nurture new suns. The universe speaks this truth in every wavelength of light, that endings are simply beginnings that have learned patience. Among the new clouds, the stars awaken once again, each one a reminder that creation is never finished. The cosmos keeps breathing, reshaping itself from what it once was. In the quiet between the stars, you can almost hear it. The soft sound of eternity revising its own story. Nothing is ever truly lost. It only learns to shine in a different form. Every star that burns, every planet that cools, and every grain of dust drifting between them belongs to a single endless rhythm, a cycle that began long before us and will continue long after. The universe does not move in straight lines. It breathes in circles. Creation, destruction, and rebirth are not separate acts, but the same gesture repeated on a cosmic scale. Like the slow inhale and exhale of some vast unseen being, the galaxies themselves pulse with renewal. A star is born from the remnants of others, from the dust of explosions, from the ashes of ancient light. It shines for millions or billions of years, balancing between pressure and gravity, between fire and silence. When its fuel fades, it expands, cools, and releases everything it has gathered, seeding new stars to come. Each phase is both an ending and a beginning, like a wave folding back into the sea. The pattern never breaks. It only transforms its rhythm. Astronomers see this as the life cycle of stars: nebula, main sequence, giant, collapse, and rebirth. But to look at it from a human heart is to see something gentler, the universe practicing patience. It takes time to create, time to dissolve, and even more time to begin again. There is no rush in eternity. Every collapse feeds the next creation. Every burst of light sows new possibilities. From ashes to orbit, everything learns to shine again. The atoms that make up your body, your bones, your breath, your heartbeat, are part of that cycle. Each one has been elsewhere before, inside another star, part of another planet, maybe even part of another living being eons ago. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are its continuation. To exist is to participate in this rhythm, to be both consequence and cause, echo and origin. In the great breathing of the universe, there is no true death, only transformation. The stars inhale matter, compress it, ignite it, and exhale light. The light travels across the dark, warms new worlds, and becomes the building blocks of life. When those worlds grow old, they too return their atoms to space, and the circle begins again. Every flicker in the night sky is a reminder of this pulse, steady and infinite. Perhaps that is why looking at the stars brings calm. Somewhere inside, we recognize the rhythm. We feel the quiet assurance that nothing truly ends, that everything finds its way back into the cycle. Even when the night feels long, It is only one side of the breath. Dawn is the other. The universe keeps teaching the same lesson in countless forms: to release, to renew, to repeat. It is not chaos. It is harmony unfolding at a scale beyond our comprehension. And so the stars keep burning, collapsing, and returning. Each one a note in an endless melody of creation. From ashes to orbit, everything learns to shine again. The circle never ends. It only expands, carrying us all within its gentle motion. A breath without beginning or end, rising and falling through eternity. Everything you are, your hands, your heartbeat, the air filling your lungs, began in the heart of a star. Long before there were planets or oceans or names for things, the elements that now form your body were forged in furnaces scattered across the galaxy. Hydrogen first, then carbon, oxygen, calcium, iron, each one born from fire, cooled by distance, and carried across the dark by time. You are, in the most literal sense, made of starlight that forgot it was light and chose instead to become life. When you touch your skin, you are feeling atoms that have traveled through billions of years. The iron in your blood once helped a dying star breathe its last. The oxygen in your chest once drifted through a nebula. The calcium in your bones once rested in the dust of a supernova's wake. Every cell carries the memory of that heat, not as flame, but as potential, a quiet residue of creation. In this way, the body is a condensed history of the universe. It remembers even when you do not. Astronomers and poets, though different in craft, both reach the same conclusion. We are not separate from the sky above us. The same particles that flicker in distant constellations are the ones that flicker within our thoughts. The human mind, with its flashes of memory and emotion, is another kind of star field. Tiny bursts of electrical light framed by silence. What burns in the heavens burns in us too, though on a smaller, more intimate scale. Science explains this through nucleosynthesis, the process by which stars create heavier elements through fusion, scattering them when they die. But science also leaves room for wonder. Because knowing how does not quiet the feeling of awe when we realize where we come from. The space between our atoms is vast enough to hold galaxies. Yet here we are, held together by invisible forces, living proof that the cosmos has learned how to think about itself. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it, that low, unbroken hum that threads through all things. It is the sound of continuity, of hydrogen remembering what it felt like to glow. Every heartbeat is an echo of that ancient rhythm. Every breath, a repetition of the universe's first inhale. In you, light has slowed down, cooled, taken shape. A reminder that transformation is not loss, but evolution. Perhaps that is what it means to be human, to carry the memory of stars and still look up, searching for where we began. The atoms that form us have seen the inside of suns, the emptiness of space, and the warmth of worlds. They have drifted for billions of years to arrive here, now breathing, aware. Your body is a summary of the sky, a living constellation of matter that once burned, scattered, and returned. You are not beneath the stars. You are among them, made of the same language, written in the same light. The cosmos is not out there somewhere. It's within you, remembering itself with every heartbeat. Every moment you have ever lived has been held gently by gravity. It is the quiet force that keeps your feet on the ground, your oceans in their basins, your atmosphere wrapped close around the planet. You have never truly been separate from its touch. When you walk, when you breathe, when you sleep, gravity cradles you, not as a chain, but as an embrace. Scientists call it an attractive force, the curvature of space-time that bends everything toward everything else. But to experience it from within is to feel something softer, a belonging. Gravity does not pull you down out of punishment. It holds you close so that life can exist. It keeps the seas from drifting away into the void, keeps air thick enough to fill your lungs, keeps the sun's warmth from fleeing too soon. Without it, you would not fall. You would simply float away, lost in silence. The earth itself moves in gravity's rhythm, spinning and orbiting through the solar wind. The moon circles in response, tugging at the oceans so the tides breathe in and out. Every wave that touches the shore is part of that same dialogue, the gravitational conversation between bodies that never stops. The tides rise, fall, and return, just as your own chest rises and falls as you rest. Even your heartbeat follows this law, pulled subtly by the moon's position, synchronized with the cosmos that never stops balancing itself. When you stand still, you might think you are resisting gravity, but you are participating in it. Your muscles, your bones, your breath, all adjust, all adapt to that constant invitation to remain grounded. You are not being dragged, you are being kept. The very shape of your body, your blood pressure, the strength of your heart, all of it has evolved under gravity's steady hand. Life itself learned to grow upright only because this invisible artist sculpted the environment in which balance was possible. To imagine a world without gravity is to imagine a world without roots, where water cannot flow, where trees cannot stand, where breath itself cannot settle. Gravity is not simply a physical law, it is a condition for comfort, a quiet background that allows complexity to flourish. Even the stars, in their grand dance, are guided by this same universal pulse. Galaxies spin because gravity whispers them into order. Planets form because dust and gas listen to its pull. Existence in every form owes its stability to this patient force. Sometimes people speak of gravity as limitation, as what keeps us from flying. But perhaps it is what allows flight to have meaning. To rise, one must first be held. To fall, one must first be released. Gravity gives us that contrast, that sense of place in the vastness. You are not being pulled down. You are being held in place, exactly where life can happen. The same force that binds galaxies also keeps you close to home. In that shared pull, the universe shows its tenderness, a gentle reminder that belonging is not confinement. It is connection, constant and unseen, weaving every living thing into the same quiet embrace. Every night, when you lift your eyes to the sky, you are not merely observing the universe. You are allowing it to see itself. The light that travels across billions of years, brushing your retina in silence, is the same light that once formed your atoms. The stars you gaze upon are your distant relatives, ancient and luminous, and in that exchange of light and sight, the cosmos completes a circle. It creates awareness from awareness, reflection from reflection. The universe, for a brief and tender moment, looks back. Your eyes, delicate and human, are built from the very elements they perceive. Carbon for structure, iron for blood, calcium for bone. The same materials that once burned in stellar cores now gather photons from their siblings across space. In that act of seeing, something extraordinary happens. Matter becomes mind. The dust that once drifted without purpose has learned to contemplate itself. When you look at the stars, you are not looking outward, you are looking inward through the longest mirror ever made. Astronomers speak of light years, distances so vast they seem untouchable. Yet, what they describe is intimacy. Each ray of light that reaches you began its journey before your species existed, carrying stories older than language, older than time as you understand it. To witness that light is to receive a memory that predates memory itself. And when your mind responds, with awe, with stillness, with a quiet smile, the universe recognizes its own wonder reflected back through you. There is no separation between the observer and the observed, only different expressions of the same origin. The neurons firing in your brain mimic the flicker of stars. The electrical impulses that move your thoughts echo the same forces that move galaxies. You are not apart from the cosmos. You are the cosmos in a moment of awareness. Every question you ask, every breath you take, every heartbeat you feel is the universe thinking, expanding, and listening through you. If you've ever felt small standing beneath the night sky, remember this. The very ability to feel small is proof of your immensity. Only something vast can recognize vastness. Only something eternal can marvel at eternity. The stars do not shine to make you insignificant. They shine so you can remember that you are part of their story, written in the same ancient language of energy and time. Perhaps that is what consciousness truly is. The cosmos awakening piece by piece through beings like you. When you wonder, the universe wonders. When you rest, it rests. When you smile at night, it smiles back through starlight 1,000 years old. You are not small. You are the cosmos remembering itself. And when you look up, the stars are not above you. They are within you, reflected in your eyes, flickering quietly with recognition. In that still moment of connection, between sky and soul, between light and thought, everything becomes one. The universe, vast and ancient, finally sees itself and smiles. If your thoughts are still wandering, that's all right. The universe has always needed dreamers, people who drift between what's known and what might be. Every sound, every silence you've heard tonight came from something real. Stars still burning, oceans still breathing, atoms still dancing through time. What we've done here is not to teach, but to listen, together, to the quiet rhythm of existence. These stories are built from science, wrapped in wonder and told with care. They're not instructions, not lessons, just small reminders that the world is vast, gentle, and alive. Thank you for letting me keep you company under the same sky. May your night be long, your rest be deep, and may your dreams keep exploring.